The Belle Haven Marina is on the Potomac River, south of Old Town Alexandria, Virginia. Near one of the boat launches is a platform that was put up a number of years ago for ospreys to use as a nesting site. The boat launch area is in the foreground, and there is a dock in the background. Both were good places for shooting video footage without disturbing the birds. In March of 2014, a pair of ospreys returned to the site, even though the platform had been battered by severe winter weather and was tilted about 40 degrees from center. You can see the nest platform in the left part of the frame. The most common call of the osprey is a loud chirping. The male and female have similar plumage. One of the ways to tell them apart is that the male has a plain white breast. The male here is on the left. The female, who is on the right, has a trace of a brown necklace. Both sexes have a brown back with a slash of white on each shoulder. The head is mostly white with a touch of brown. Their diet consists almost entirely of fish they catch. The bill is hooked for tearing into the fish. You can see in this still frame that ospreys have long, narrow wings with dark tips. The feathers along the bottom edge, called the primaries and secondaries, are dark with light barring. The underwings are snow white. The joints at the top of the wings, called the wrists, are dark so that when the bird is seen in flight, there appears to be a bite taken out of each of those areas. Ospreys have intense yellow eyes with a brown line running through them. Some falcons have similar dark feathering on light faces, and it serves a purpose similar to the blacking athletes use near their eyes to reduce glare from the sun, which is very important to ospreys when they try to see fish near the surface of the water. Ospreys are now considered to be sufficiently different from both falcons and hawks to be in a family by themselves. In this footage, no pun intended, you can see the osprey's feet, which are like grappling hooks. They have long falcated talons, which means they are hooked like sickles. That is the basis for the name falcon. Ospreys have 3 forward-pointing toes and 1 pointing backwards, but they can swing one of the forward toes around to become a back toe, which enables them to better grasp the fish that they catch. You can also see the talons in this shot. When ospreys catch a fish, they always position it in their talons with the head pointing forward so that they can carry it in flight with less wind resistance. All birds need to carefully maintain their feathers to regulate body temperature, and except for flightless birds, for flying. Ospreys often come into contact with water when hunting for fish, so they spend a lot of time preening their feathers at or near the nest. You can see that when the ospreys are preening, a white membrane covers their eyes. Birds have 2 eyelids like mammals, but they also have a 3rd eyelid called a nictitating membrane with which they can cover their eye without closing their 2 eyelids. The word nictitating comes from the Latin word that means to blink. Humans have a vestige of a nictitating membrane in the corner of their eyes near the bridge of the nose. Birds activate the nictitating membrane while preening so that dirt or other things in their feathers will not fly into their eyes. You can see that the osprey can wink as well as blink, operating the nictitating membrane in each eye separately. The wind was coming from the left side of the frame, so the right membrane is closed to protect the right eye, while the left one remains open. Ospreys also devote a lot of time to building and maintaining their nests. Here is the female dropping in to add another stick. This site posed unusual challenges because of the severe tilt of the platform. The ospreys overcame this by putting more sticks on the right side so that the area where they would sit would be level. Ospreys are strong birds. They weigh about 3.5 pounds and are capable of lifting fish who weigh between 1 and 2 pounds out of the water. That same strength is used to carry to the nest large sticks and branches, which they either find on the ground or break off from trees. Both the female and the male bring material to the nest and arrange it, but the male usually brings more. Ospreys sometimes reuse a nest in successive years. The nests on platforms tend to be smaller than the ones built in trees and on cliffs. For some of the ones in trees, a human can easily fit inside. Ospreys also bring clumps of mud and sod to line the nest. In this still frame, you can see some of this material in the osprey's talons. Here is footage in real time of an osprey bringing in more sod. The female is perched above the nest while the male arranges and tamps down the sod inside. Ospreys line their nest with sod and other objects to fill in the spaces between the sticks so that the eggs will not fall through. The eggs are a little less than 2.5 inches long and about 1 3/4 inches wide. They are cream-colored with heavy brown spots and markings. Ospreys usually lay about 3 eggs, but the number can be larger or smaller. They raise only 1 brood of chicks per season. They also fill in the cracks with trash generated by humans, such as plastic bags and pieces of plastic. There is an AutoZone bag stuck into the back of the nest that stands out when the wind blows. Here is the female arranging some plastic in the nest. Sometimes the ospreys would fly to the other side of the river to collect these plastic treasures. Here is the male flying in from a considerable distance with a piece of plastic in his talons with which to line the nest. In this footage, the female flies to the nest with a piece of plastic. The male then flies in, alights on her back, and mates with her. The male will sometimes mate on the fly without first landing on part of the nest. Ospreys at a nest will copulate frequently, between 100 and 200 times for a clutch of eggs. Once the eggs are laid, the female does most of the incubating. The male spends most of his time fishing, but he will help sometimes with the incubation. Here is footage of mating slowed to half speed. Copulation typically does not last long. The red spot on the underside of the female is her cloaca, which comes from the Latin word for sewer. The cloaca is the hole underneath the back part of male and female birds through which reproductive and excretory functions occur. For males, it's where the sperm comes out. For females, it's where the sperm goes in and eggs come out. For most of the year it cannot be seen, but in the breeding season it swells and protrudes slightly outside the feathers under the tail. In this footage on a windy day, the male is at the nest when the female arrives with a large stick. He tries to mate with her, but the wind is blowing so hard that he cannot keep his balance, so the copulation was unsuccessful. Here is an example of plastic passion. The male jumps on the back of the female with a piece of plastic stuck in his right talons. He flies away with the plastic still stuck to his foot. It was still stuck in his talons when he returned to the nest. Here, the female is in the nest when an osprey who is not her mate flies over. Note the threat position she adopts. There is quite a bit of human traffic near the nest which does not seem to disturb the ospreys, but they become very upset if a large bird flies anywhere near the nest. Bald eagles and other ospreys cause particular alarm. In March of 2010 at this nest site, the female arrived at the nest before the male from the previous year had migrated back. Another female came to the nest site, and the two females got into a talon-to-talon fight. They tumbled into the water before the second female flew away. Ospreys don't like bald eagles because the eagles often try to steal the fish that the ospreys catch, which is known as kleptoparasitism. The eagles at 31 inches are a third larger than the ospreys at 23 inches, and they are not as adept as the ospreys at catching fish. During nesting season, ospreys become aggressive in defending their nest, and they sometimes chase away the much larger eagles. Swimming birds do not bother the ospreys. Here is a horned grebe swimming near the nest. Here is a redneck grebe swimming and diving almost right below the nest. And here is a pair of red-breasted mergansers. Ring-billed gulls perch very close to the nest without incident, hoping to get the remains of any fish that might be left over. Fish crows sometimes crowd around the ospreys, but the interactions are mostly peaceful. House sparrows, such as the one you see here flitting near the platform, sometimes build their nests in the sticks at the base of osprey nests. The ospreys have no interest in the sparrows, but the predator species of the sparrows are afraid to approach the area where the ospreys are nesting. In Australia, small birds called zebra finches nest in the sticks near the bottom of huge wedge-tailed eagle nests for the same reason. Purple martins have nested in the slats of the platform under the osprey nest in past years. Martins are one of the species who, along with ospreys, have benefited greatly from artificial nest sites. Ospreys, peregrine falcons, and barn owls are the only birds of prey found in all the major non-polar regions of the world. Osprey populations have declined severely in many parts of the world for a variety of reasons. Fishermen have shot them because they were thought to eat too many fish. In Europe, as they became rarer, their eggs and their skins were more valued by collectors. Along with peregrine falcons, bald eagles, and other raptors who eat high on the food chain, ospreys were severely affected by DDT, which caused their eggshells to thin and become unable to withstand the weight of an incubating bird. Ospreys have since made a comeback. In the area of the Potomac River that includes the Belle Haven Marina, there are an estimated 11 breeding pairs in 2014. Those who have been watching the ospreys in the marina hope that the platform will remain upright through the nesting season, and that the pair on this leaning tower will rear a successful brood.